I want to ask each one of you a question. Think carefully. What widely prescribed medication causes muscle weakness and aches, causes potential heart failure, causes early onset of Alzheimer's, and brings about, for many men, erectile dysfunction? Widely prescribed, widely advertised. I'm not going to tell you now, though. Laurie Johnson will be here to give us the scoop.
Wow, I hope nobody we know is taking it.
Well, they're all taking it. I would imagine 60% of our audience is taking this widely prescribed medication, and I will tell you how to get liberated. Okay, well, the final presidential debate was supposed to focus on foreign policy, but both candidates also talked about the issue voters care about, and that's the economy.
David Brody has this look at the debate and where the candidates go from here.
It was a debate where both sides had a strategy. Mitt Romney came in trying to look presidential, while the president set out to paint Mitt Romney as a man who has taken multiple positions on a variety of foreign policy issues.
Your strategy previously has been one that has been all over the map and is not designed to keep Americans safe or to build on the opportunities that exist in the Middle East.
Well, my strategy is pretty straightforward, which is to go after the bad guys, to make sure we do our very best to interrupt them, to kill them, to take them out of the picture. But the key that we're going to have to pursue is a pathway to get the Muslim world to be able to reject extremism on its own.
Just a half hour into the debate, though, the focus shifted to economic policy, with Romney trying to make the transition to his strong suit.
In order to be able to fulfill our role in the world, America must be strong. America must lead. And for that to happen, we have to strengthen our economy here at home.
The president was more than happy to go there on the economy, trying to tie Romney to President Bush.
He's praised George Bush as a good economic steward and Dick Cheney as somebody who shows great wisdom and judgment. And taking us back to those kinds of strategies that got us into this mess are not the way that we are going to maintain leadership in the 21st century.
What we've seen over the last 4 years is something I don't want to see over the next 4 years. The president said by now we'd be at 5.4% unemployment. We're 9 million jobs short of that.
After 20 minutes or so on the economy, moderator Bob Schieffer had enough.
Let me get back to foreign policy.
And they did. On Iran's plan to develop a nuclear weapon, President Obama talked about tough sanctions.
We then organized the strongest coalition and the strongest sanctions against Iran in history.
But Romney said the president hasn't been near tough enough.
The way to make sure they understand that is by having from the very beginning the tightest sanctions possible. They need to be tightened. Our diplomatic isolation needs to be tougher. We need to indict Ahmadinejad.
Romney became the most aggressive on painting the president as someone who spent the last 4 years apologizing around the world for America. That got the president agitated.
Nothing Governor Romney just said is true. Starting with this notion of me apologizing. This has been probably the biggest whopper that's been told during the course of this campaign.
But Romney reminded him of what he said on Arabic TV.
You said that on occasion America had dictated to other nations. Mr. President, America has not dictated to other nations. We have freed other nations from dictators.
There are just 2 weeks to go now until Election Day. The trends show that Mitt Romney leads among men by about 10 points, the president leading among women by about 8 points. That means a very close election. And with few undecided voters out there, the winning candidate is going to have to mobilize their base and get their voters to the polls. David Brody, CBN News, at the presidential debate in Boca Raton, Florida.
Thanks, David. We were scheduled, Scott Rasmussen, who I think is the best pollster in America, was supposed to be, we're having trouble, electronic trouble with the feed at a remote location. But
well, maybe we'll get it.
We hope we'll get him. But his polling, as I understand, shows Romney ahead in the battleground states and shows him ahead in the Electoral College. But it's a squeaker right now. But Romney's coming ahead. Did you watch the debate?
I watched the whole thing. Yeah, I thought the whole thing was an effort on his part to remain presidential and calm during the entire evening, which I thought he did. I mean, I think he showed that he has significant knowledge internationally. Of course, whoever the incumbent president is going to have had experience with whatever he's engaged in internationally that is presidential.
Well, I think that insult about we've got aircraft carriers, you know, the ones they fly planes off of, that was the most awful insult. I mean, it was a put down of, it just wasn't presidential. It was
well, that seems to happen when he gets back into a corner.
Okay, well, I understand from what they tell me in my ear that we have with us pollster Scott Rasmussen. Scott, it's good to have you with us. He's a founding president of Rasmussen Reports. And they have accurately predicted the presidential race last time. And it's a pleasure to welcome you back to the 700 Club. Tell us the polling. What's standing out in your mind right now about you're working in the battleground states? What are you finding?
Well, the biggest change that we've seen in the race in the last few weeks is that the battleground states used to be more favorable to President Obama than the national numbers. That's no longer true. In fact, when we take a look at 11 battleground states combined, Mitt Romney is up by 4 points. He's also up by a couple of points nationally. The one state that President Obama is doing much better in than his national numbers would suggest, though, is Ohio. That's a state that both candidates desperately want to win.
Somebody said that they're running to be president of Ohio. That seems to be the key state in America. Have you found
Look, our numbers right now, our numbers today show that President Obama is favored to win 237 electoral votes, Mitt Romney 235. That's a virtual tie. There are 7 states with 66 electoral votes that will decide the presidency. The biggest of those is Ohio, and that's why the candidates are running to be president of Ohio. Number 2 on the list is Virginia. Right now, Governor Romney is up by 3 points in Virginia, but he really has some work to do in Ohio.
What about Pennsylvania? There's some rumors that the people in western Pennsylvania don't like Obama at all, that they might overcome, I guess, what would be coming out of Philadelphia.
You know, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are going to be heavily in Obama's favor. The rural parts of the state will be in Governor Romney's favor. We continue to show that as a state that is leaning in Obama's direction. It's closer than it was a couple of weeks ago. But the way I look at it, if Mitt Romney wins Pennsylvania, if the numbers surge enough that that were to happen, he is going to win in a landslide. I consider that a long shot. Romney has a better chance of winning, say, in a place like Iowa or Wisconsin or Colorado than he does in Pennsylvania.
Speaking of Wisconsin, I understand that Tommy Thompson in that Senate race at Wisconsin is edging ahead by a couple of points. Could you tell us about what you found out there?
Yeah, that's been a very interesting race. Obviously, Wisconsin has been a state that's had a political battleground for the last 2 years with the recall efforts and Scott Walker and everything. It's a state that Barack Obama won by 14 points. Immediately after Tommy Thompson won the Republican primary, it looked like Tammy Baldwin had the edge. She was up by consistently a few points in our polling. But in the last week, Thompson has pulled narrowly ahead. He's up by 2. And, you know, while he's ahead and the trend is moving a little bit in Thompson's direction, that is a race that remains too close to call. I don't think either side feels very comfortable with the Wisconsin Senate race just yet.
Well, the Democrats have a control of the Senate, but it's very tenuous. Are you finding is there any possibility the Republicans will take control of the Senate?
There's a possibility, but it's an uphill battle. Right now, we project 48 seats will end up in Democratic hands, 47 in Republicans. There are 5 toss-up Senate races. One of them is that Wisconsin race. The Republicans will need to win 4 of those, or perhaps 3 if Mitt Romney is elected and Paul Ryan gets to cast the deciding vote in the Senate. So the Republicans need to win most of those toss-up states to get control of the Senate. One of them is in Massachusetts, where Scott Brown faces a very difficult battle. He's a bit of an underdog there. Another is in Connecticut, where Linda McMahon is very competitive, but Connecticut is still a Democratic-leaning state. Right now, I would have to say the edge goes to the Democrats to hang on to control of the Senate, but it's close enough that there is room for change in the last 2 weeks.
What about that Nelson seat in Nebraska? Is that going to swing to the Republicans, you think?
Yes. Nebraska is very likely to go to the Republicans. They will certainly pick up some seats this year. We just don't know if it will be enough to win control.
What about Virginia? You see anything with George Allen? Has he got any? He's been behind most of the season. Is he up now?
Yeah, he's been narrowly behind most of the season, and what we're seeing pretty consistently is that wherever Mitt Romney's support is in Virginia, George Allen is doing about 3 or 4 points worse. So right now we show Mitt Romney leading by 3 in Virginia, but Allen is down by a point. And you're right, this has been a persistent deficit, and Allen hasn't figured out a way to convert some of the energy that Republicans are feeling about the presidential race to help his campaign.
One last question. When we all wake up the morning after the election, who's going to be sitting in the White House? Who do you think?
You know, anybody who tells you they know right now is either lying to you or deluding themselves. I think the race is very close. If I were to use a basketball comparison, I would say it's like a tie game with the possession arrow favoring Romney, very close edge for him. But here's the thing that I really hope we avoid. I hope that when we wake up November 7th, there is a winner rather than having lawyers flooding Ohio and Florida and Virginia and fighting over what happened the night before.
I share that earnest hope with you. Scott, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Scott Rasmussen, he's the best pollster in the nation, ladies and gentlemen. And
fascinating.
A jump ball.
Yeah, well, I share your hope for the day
well,
after.
We don't need another Supreme Court win for whoever. All right.
The head of the Muslim Brotherhood's political party in Egypt says his goal in that country is to, quote, institute Islamic Sharia law. Saad al-Khatani was elected to lead the Freedom and Justice Party in Egypt earlier this month. And according to the Jerusalem Post, al-Khatani says that victory is the first step in achieving his goal. Hundreds of protesters demanded that Ireland's first abortion clinic be shut down. Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK that has not legalized abortion on demand. The center opened recently, and it plans to offer the abortion pill to women who are less than 9 weeks pregnant, but only if a doctor determines they're at risk of death or long-term health damage from their pregnancy. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.